Why is it we can't enjoy simple pleasures? Now, we can, and simple pleasures are truly the best pleasures. But when your brain is so messed up, when your hardwiring is so overrided, then these things become impossible. And you can know in your heart of hearts that you enjoy going for a walk more than you enjoy, scrolling on social media for an hour, but you simply won't enjoy the walk more than you enjoy scrolling social media for an hour. And that's because your feelings are all messed up. Your brain's being overridden. I think feelings, being in tune with our feelings is really, really one of the most important things in life. And when we are messing up our brain's chemistry by doom scrolling, which, in our brain has the same effect as, doing like hard drugs, that you are getting reinforced for doing absolutely nothing, for sitting in your bed scrolling, and then you can no longer enjoy the simple things. You can no longer enjoy a clear night sky. You can no longer enjoy a peaceful walk. You can no longer enjoy a good book. You can't even read a book. I think that's the biggest reason in this day and age that so few people read, is because they simply can't. When you scroll on social media, reading a book reading a book like this about philosophy, it just becomes nearly impossible. It doesn't stimulate you enough in 5 minutes. In an hour, you'll feel more stimulated than you've ever felt, in a way. At least I do. But when you're so used to these instant gratifications, you're all messed up. Now, I think self-help is kind of, stupid in a way, but I think there is something good about the idea in self-help of, you know, caring about your brain. Our brain, we can't control how we feel, but we can control not making our brain so messed up that it can't feel accurately. Because I think feeling is divine. But when, you're basically in withdrawals, like you can't feel accurately. And that's why you have such a hard time knowing the next step to do. You have such a hard time enjoying life, enjoying the little things, being happy. I think I've been my happiest in life when I was using my phone as little as I was. When I was on social media, as little. I deleted my social media, but I still had my accounts, and here and there I'd go back on, and it would always just mess me up. And I would go on for such a small time, maybe like a few minutes. And even then I could notice, because I'm so far removed from that world. It's like I would notice my attention was all messed up. I would notice I would want to go back on. I would notice I'd want to do these things that I haven't done in years. And it was all because I just was on this app that's free. But it's actually not free. It shouldn't say free when you are on social media. And you shouldn't think of it as being a free thing, because it takes your time and your attention and your awareness, which is the most valuable thing you have. Your attention and your time. I mean, that's what this thing takes, and it sells your information, and that's not free. It's not free. It shouldn't be labeled free. It should be labeled the most valuable thing in the universe. At least to us, time. I mean, if we had no time, we instantly have nothing. If we don't have time and time instantly freezes, you literally have nothing. Time is the most important thing, without a doubt. There's no question, because nothing happens without time. I mean, you can say space as well, but if there's time, I mean, at least something's still happening. But you can have space, and without time, nothing happens. So time, I think, is the most important thing. And then that's what we give up to these things. And then we don't even realize it's not as if an hour scrolling is all we are doing. It's the hours after that are also completely messed up, completely ruined in a way, because an hour walk could have been the most pleasurable thing ever. And it is. It's so amazing. It's such a beautiful, simple pleasure. But if you just scrolled for 10 minutes before that walk's going to lose so much beauty, so much divinity. God isn't going to be in that walk like God would have been in that walk if you had not done that prior to. And that's such a shame. That's such a shame. And it all starts with, little things, and then you start giving in to like small compromises, given to huge compromises, and then you're, in a few weeks you can't even recognize yourself. Your habits are all out of whack. And I could see that with me, because I personally, I gave into social media again because I thought, I don't like to be dogmatic in my beliefs. So every once in a while, I like to do things I used to do that I decided to stop doing because I didn't think they were beneficial anymore. And then, I get to a certain point where I think, maybe I can reintroduce that. But every time I've ever done that, with being on my phone more, with being on social media again, with talking to more people, with being on YouTube, even answering comments, to me, it I enjoy the comments and I try to answer the comments, but even then it takes me out of the world. I'm on comments and I answer a few, and then somehow I'm on shorts, and then somehow I'm, watching a video I don't even really care about, and then I'm watching surfing stuff, and then it's like an hour's gone, and it's more than just that hour, because I've lost my train of thought. In the creative realm, which is the realm I'm trying to excel in, I can't afford these things. you know and that's partly on me and my not being disciplined enough. But I heard once, truly disciplined people put themselves in positions to succeed. And that's really what we have to do. We have to say no social media whatsoever, and no doom scrolling, none of these things, because it's not beneficial. Even YouTube at this point is, even reading at this point for me, it's all seems like it's becoming distractions away from, writing and thinking and contemplating and posting videos and enjoying life and being present. They all seem like they're becoming more and more distracting. And in Meditations, Marcus Aurelius says, discard your books. And for a long time, I understood what that meant. I understood that meant, I still do understand what that means. And it means, at that point in Marcus's life, books were no longer serving him the purpose that they were prior to. Marcus could have never have come to understand the things he understood. He never could have created the character that he had without books. But then it got to a point where he wasn't going into his books to advance his character. He wasn't going into his books to do anything other than escape what he knew he had to do. And, maybe, I don't know what that was for Marcus, but I think each and every one of us can see that he'll knows deep down inside what we're trying to avoid. And that's why, like what Carl Jung says when he says, what got us here is now preventing us from getting us there. When Carl Jung says this, reading got me here. But now reading, in a way, is preventing me from getting there. And I've felt this for a little bit with reading, honestly. Every book I pick up, I struggle. I can't read it. I can't read anymore. And maybe part of that was because, like I said, I was, you know, too much shorts, too much social media. And like I said, even I say too much and it was, but it's comparative. I'm in the top, I would still be considered in the top 0.001% probably of people who use their phone. But it was the way I was in that little reintroduce, I could see immensely how my life was just ruined, literally ruined, because it started, my attention was all messed up, and then my pleasure is all messed up. I engage in so many simple pleasures, like I would just walk, think, write, go to the gym, eat healthy, have deep conversations, spend time with friends. It's like go swimming. Like I don't like do anything too crazy. Hikes. I mean, surf. I do things, yes, of course, but these things are so much harder to take the deep, real pleasures from them when your brain is now rewiring, thinking that it's basically like needs cocaine to be happy. Like that's kind of what social media is in a way. When you look at the brain, it's like this huge dopamine hit, and then that walk's no longer enjoyable. That quiet morning is no longer enjoyable. That deep session writing is no longer enjoyable. It doesn't even feel worth it to contemplate things that you used to be like getting up at 5:30 in the morning to do. And then with reading, I know I can't tell. I think part of it was the fact that I was doing these things, and reading became harder again because my attention span was all messed up. But I think also, I think even before this happened, I could see that starting with reading, like how it was just no longer being advantageous to my future. And it was actually becoming a distraction. It was actually becoming like, oh, I don't want to write, so I'll read because that's just as good when it's not, which it could be, but it depends what your soul is yearning for. It depends what feels right. And that's why it's so important to be off these things that mess up your brain, because your feeling gets all messed up. Your internal compass is like, it's like when you put a magnet, like social media is like, I think magnets do it. Like when you put a magnet, magnet, magnet. Whoa, I don't know why I can't say magnet. Mag, magnetic. Sorry. Um, it's like when you put a magnet next to a compass, and the compass, I think, is that thing that I can't pronounce for some reason. Um, I think that messes up compasses, and that's how it is when we mess up our brain and our feeling, because then we can no longer, our internal compass is no longer accurate. It's just spinning, and it doesn't know where it is anymore, and we can't accurately feel, and that's how we need to navigate life. You navigate life through feeling, and you have to be wise. You have to be smart. Obviously, there's I mean, there's different definitions for things, and people explain things differently. So words, language sometimes limits us. But I don't. When I say feeling, I don't mean, oh, you felt angry, you should go, do whatever your anger insists of you. Like that's not exactly what I mean. Maybe I'm not saying not to, but I'm also not saying to do that. There's a way to differentiate inside. You know which feelings are right and which feelings are wrong, which feelings are coming from your ego, which feelings are coming from your soul. You know these things, and you can lie to yourself and say that you don't. And if you really don't know these things, it's because your brain's all messed up. Your internal compass is doing circles, and you can't accurately feel. So you need to change your habits. Maybe you need to get off social media, get off drugs, get off whatever you think is preventing you. But there's nothing in this video I can say to you to make your life better. There's only things that you can do to make your life better. And you know what those things are, and you need to take steps to do those things. Or this is all a waste of time. And even this is a distraction. Even you clicking on a YouTube video that's supposed to potentially help you live better, help you see things in a new light, is just distractions from doing probably what you knew you should be doing right now instead of being on YouTube. Even YouTube for me, I used to be like my professor. And there was seasons in life where YouTube and reading, it got me to where I am. But now I think YouTube and reading are partially preventing me from getting where I need to go. I have enough information, I have enough knowledge, I am wise enough. I just need to explore that world. I need to give in to deep contemplation. So all these things affect me in a negative way. Someone could be looking at me and saying, oh, he's sitting there doing nothing. Like, what is he doing? You know? And then someone could look again and then, the next day be like, oh, now at least now he's reading. When in reality, the former may have been advantageous, with the latter being detrimental to my advancement in the field that I am trying to advance, in my goals, in my expanding of consciousness. You can never really know. Only you can know. Only you can know what's advantageous. You know, Maybe going for 4 hours of walks was just so you could avoid writing. But maybe it was because you needed to think about something before you wrote it down. Only you can be the true judge of that. Only you can be the true judge. And you deep down, deep inside, you know. And if you don't, because it is hard to tell sometimes, especially when you're doing these horrible things that mess up your brain's chemistry. You're messing your brain all up. You can no longer enjoy simple pleasures. You can no longer enjoy life. I think social media is the worst thing that has ever happened to the human race. But at the same time, that means because everything is a paradox in a way, and I think it being the worst thing that's ever happened is actually also the best thing that's ever happened for a select few. The many, social media is going to destroy the many, destroy them. But the few who can overcome social media, who can put it past them, who can be away from it, they will be stronger for social media being in the world. And it's a hard thing to realize, and that's a hard thing that I've had to come to accept, that what makes the many worse makes the few better. And then you really have to think about, what do you want in society? Do you want there to be a few who are pushing the needle extraordinary, or do you want everyone to be better off? But you can't. I believe in true freedom, and true freedom. The many is gonna dig their. The many is gonna storm the gates of hell every time. Every time, the herd is always gonna storm the gates of hell, unfortunately, and the few will always storm the gates of heaven, and that's just the way it goes. But yeah, but it isn't the fact that you can't enjoy simple pleasures. It's the fact that your brain's all messed up. It's the fact that your wiring's getting all out of whack. Whether it's, for me right now, I could easily see it with even giving into social media, like this teeny bit, not even ever keeping it on my phone, instantly deleting it after, a few minutes of using it. Like, I could still see how much it made my life 180. How I turned into a person who can never, never do anything worthwhile. Then how, today I feel like I'm a person who could expand consciousness, who could hoist up humanity, who could lift the world. And sometimes it's just one thing. And if you can just chop that root, then all the little trivial branches that you think are messing up your life, they just fall away. Because it was only because of this root problem that those things even existed. I'm not the type of person who's going to do these outlandish things, and if I just don't have a distraction to avoid discomfort, then I'm just going to do the right things. But it's when I have the phone, that's when I can give in to these things. And that's the one horrible thing about the phone, because wisdom is like leaning into discomfort. And the phone is the greatest tool ever invented for avoiding discomfort. And that's basically all the phone is. That's like, what is a phone? A tool for avoiding discomfort, essentially. And if you lean, and if becoming wise is leaning into discomfort, then the phone is a tool to prevent you from becoming wise. It makes you think about your phone, this world very differently, very, very differently. And we need to be very careful with our phones, because if you're only, I mean, think about all the times you reach for your phone. Is it really, like, so often it's just to avoid discomfort? And then sometimes, it's to text and do all these other things, but it's like, is that really out of it? It's just trivial waste of time, idle chatter. It's just noise. It's just noise. Texting people about stupid things that don't matter. Looking at notifications like this, that, and the other, news updates. It's just noise to distract you from wrestling with the matters of utmost importance, to prevent you from expanding consciousness, from becoming wise, from making the human race better. And you'll never become who you are if you're avoiding your discomfort, because your internal compass is so messed up. That's a huge thing that I've realized. Because I've been saying a lot that we know what's right. And I see now that sometimes it can be extremely hard, even though I think we still do, but sometimes it can be extremely, extremely hard. And because it feels wrong when you're doing what you know feels right, because your brain's all messed up. And when you can see that, and you understand that, and you understand how important it is so that it's not, it should become pretty easy for you to just stop the phone, or whatever that one thing is that's preventing you. Because there's one thing, and there's from that the roots, there's 100 branches, and if you can just chop down that one thing, you can just chop at the roots, all these branches will fall, and you'll just become a better person. You'll just become who you're meant to become. It's the idea that we don't need to add anything. All we need to do is take away. It's like I've talked about this many times, but it's been a while, I guess. Like the statue of David. Michelangelo added nothing to the statue of David. He just took away, and he made a masterpiece. He took away the sin of the rock and released David from sin, essentially. And he's just there, perfect and beautiful, with all the mesh away from him that's preventing him from being David. Nothing was added to that rock, only was taken away. And that's kind of how we have to look at ourselves, especially when you've forged your character, especially when you're a good person. You really just got to stop doing a few things, and I think everything will just fall into place. Because you're not like you're going to pick up some extremely crazy hobby out of left field. You're going to go back to what you should really be doing, what feels right. You'll be able to enjoying simple pleasures again, and you'll be able to feel again.